Hey everyone, Gabriel here from SkyScale, and welcome to this video, which is going to be very different from my normal content. This is more of an interview slash podcast kind of video with Mr. Christopher B. To give a bit of context, Mr. Chris B has been in the insurance business for decades. Very knowledgeable, has coached a lot of people in the space, and I wanted to dig a bit deeper with Mr. Chris B because very knowledgeable, has a lot of wisdom about this space, and can actually help people. So if you're watching this and I don't know, maybe have issues with sales or you just want to be better, doesn't have because it doesn't matter if you have issues or not. Maybe you just want to elevate your game. I think this is gonna be helpful, especially if you're thinking about doing cold outreach and lead generation, whether it's through Skyscaling or anywhere else. I think this video is going to be very helpful. It really shows the intricate details and the expectations of someone that wants to do their own marketing and sort of a more realistic view of what it is to get leads, how often you have to reach out, how do you set appointments, the conversion ratio, objections you're going to be getting. So, man, did we unpack a lot of stuff. To give, again, a more context, Chris B has been working with Skyscaling for just about 3 months now. And over the last 8 weeks or so, no, 7 weeks, Chris has made about $12,000 working with us through our lead system for living benefits. So if you do want to get in touch with Chris, just because you want more information about him, could be anything. Maybe you want to work with him, you want to ask him questions. Chris is a very open person. He loves to talk to people, and he's a great human, great guy. I'm sure you'll see in this video. I've had personal conversations with Chris many times, and I can tell he's very knowledgeable. I've met hundreds, thousands of insurance agents over the last few years. And Chris is definitely one of those guys that you want to listen and learn from. So his credentials and his email is at the end of this video. If you want to reach out to him personally, you can absolutely do that. If you're thinking about working with Skyscaling, skyscaling.com/contact to book a meeting with our team, and we'll see if we're fit and if we can help. So that's about it. Again, it's been Gabriel from Skyscaling. If you have any questions, just send us an email or book a meeting with our team, and have a great watch. It's a long one, but it's worth it. I can confirm that for sure. So again, been Gabriel. Bye-bye. Welcome everyone to this first little podcast / interview kind of thing that I've been wanting to do for a long time. So long time coming. I did see a bunch of people doing these little podcast interviews things online, and I thought it would be a great idea. So Mr. Christopher B is actually to be the first participant of this little call here today. So Chris, the way I would like to start things off is for people that don't know you, if you don't mind just taking a few minutes, just kind of introducing you as a person, you as an agent. I know you know a lot about the insurance space. You're very knowledgeable. So I think for people at home watching this, the information we're going to be able to get here today, hopefully is going to be able to, just help people out with their sales process, whether it's for sales stuff, psychology, how to reach out to people correctly, the scripts, if you're using any scripts. So this is all stuff we'll be going over here today. And by the end of this call, hopefully you're a bit more knowledgeable about this whole sales and insurance stuff. Sounds good?
Of course.
Perfect. So Chris, the floor is yours.
So I started out in the world of telemarketing. That's pick up the
Yes.
phone, get somebody on the phone, get in and get out 2 to 6 minutes. You're in, you're out, you're done. And that was everything from flowers to motor club memberships to insurance. And this was back in 1990 something. So that was a few years ago. And we were selling to all 50 states in the United States. And eventually I became a verifier and licensed in 30 states to, close the deal, as it were. So you had 2 or 3 minutes with the guy up front to, offer you the motor club membership or the life insurance or whatever it was. Then you get kicked to a licensed agent and they close the deal. So in those jobs, you build the skills of getting that customer's attention, providing a product, getting them to make that emotional buy. But you have to be licensed to close the deal. So you have to go through all the licensure, and you have to get, all of those things that you need in order to be an insurance agent, even though it's on the phone.
Right.
And then,
So,
yeah.
so you're used to, because I think a lot of people, when they start the insurance, they're used to doing stuff in person, right? You're sort of born into this whole space doing stuff on the phone, right?
You
How
got
is
it.
it different from, and I'm also asking for my own benefit because obviously I do sales, I run, my own business, but what's different from selling in person to selling online, and what obviously it doesn't translate as much when you're selling in online compared to in person, right? Because there's no emotion. You can't, physically see the person. So it's a bit different. So what tricks, I guess, do you use online to persuade or add urgency to, to a prospect and the
You
process of the
know,
sale?
we all experienced the dynamic shift in the insurance industry when COVID showed up
Yes.
and
Yeah.
messed up everything we were doing door to door,
Right.
everything we were doing in person. And there are some sales fundamentals, whether you're selling on the floor, the calling floor, at the door, or even in like a retail store,
Right.
your retail location. The fundamentals are the same, but the tool, the way you're going to present and the tool sets you need in order to present are entirely different. If you're sitting across the desk with a person, you need a far different set of skills than listening, just what you can hear over the phone. Some say one's easier, some say the other's easier. It's, they all have pros and cons. And so what the insurance market did is said, well, what if we can leverage this whole Zoom thing?
Yes.
So I can see your face. I can
Yes.
see your expressions. I can see the kids in the background
Yeah.
like I would if I was selling in your home.
Right.
But I can also tell if you like what I'm saying or if you don't like what I'm saying, if you're nervous about the price or if you're not as affected by the price. So a lot of those skills of selling person to person or at the door, you still can use if you're using something like Zoom appointments, right?
Right.
Um, and so in this industry and in this market, even though the leads are coming in online, you're still going to make that connection with that customer. And whether you sell them over the phone or whether you set up a Zoom appointment or an in-person appointment, that's all just based on the structure that you're working in for your company.
Awesome. And what percentage of your sales nowadays are done online compared to in person?
I would say that the book of business that I have stepped into is a small office that serves a community. So anybody that's already with our office in this community, come in for their home and their auto needs, I can then talk to them about their life insurance needs. And that's about 35% of the business that I do. And a good 60% of the business or 50% of the business comes from the Skyscaling and other internet leads, where I am calling up, striking up that conversation, and trying to make that personal connection over Zoom.
Okay, amazing. Now, little missing piece that I didn't catch at the beginning, maybe you said it, but now you work with a bank, right? A financial institution called Desjardins. So, what difference does it make for you to work with one specific financial institution compared to being an independent broker that has access to every company out there? Why did you specifically select Desjardins instead of going with another financial institution where you'd be a bit more independent?
For sure. And there's a couple of different independent setups. For instance, you can be an independent contracted agent that works with a brokerage that does many different companies, or one that does right exclusively. For instance, the Maple Bay Financial Corporation, they work with Canada Protection Plan exclusively, right? But you may go with others that are more of a brokerage, like Diamond Financial is like a
Right.
brokerage. But the reason that I went with Desjardins is because they do have a strongly developed name in the financial industry
Yes.
through the banking. There's not a lot of banks and credit unions that are Desjardins around town in Ontario, but their insurance presence is very strong, and you then you can reassure your customers. Your life insurance is safe with us. The investments you make in your participating life are going to be a growth tool, and we structure your policy so that even if the business incurs any loss or financial downturn, you still keep all the life insurance that you've accrued and all the cash value that you've accrued. So it's a win-win situation. So you have the strength of the financial institution presence
Yeah.
of Desjardins without any of the risks of financial investing usually brings.
Awesome. Now, obviously, with any financial institution, you have access to multiple products you can sell, right? Life insurance, living benefits, investments. Um, what product are you selling the most of now, and what product do you find is the easiest to sell, and why?
I think right now the critical illness and disability has been very strong because that's the leads that I have been getting.
Yeah.
But when I talk to people about that, it's a very natural extension of the conversation to say, I always tell folks we want to take care of you in case you get sick, in case you get hurt, and in case you don't make it. Let's
Yes.
do all of those today. So
Okay.
now we're talking critical illness, disability, and life insurance.
Yes.
Let me ask you, do you have your insurance? Do you have your retirement set up?
Yes.
Either way, I got you. Because if you don't, I'm going to offer you PAR, which has growing cash value and growing death benefit. Or if you do, I'm going to give you PAR to protect the retirement you have in place, critical illness to protect the retirement you have in place, because you don't want to spend all of that if you get cancer and you need to put a ramp in your home or you need to buy a wheelchair van. You don't want to spend all of your investments that you already have on your critical illness. So what we do is we protect investments you already have. And if you don't have investments, boy, do I have a product for you to help build that.
Okay, awesome. So you would agree, because this is a question I get asked literally every day. Gabriel, I'm not really focused on living benefits and I don't want to sell that product. I'm more focused on life insurance. And I tell everyone living benefits is the foot in the door, right? It's a great way to start the conversation. And once the income is protected, obviously comes RSPs, life insurance, investments, and all the rest. So have you found that living benefits is sort of a good way to just kind of transition into those other products and make really a full financial analysis?
Well, I think that the way that I always approach the conversation is that, would you prefer a product that pays you while you're alive or while you're dead?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you got something that pays me while I'm still alive?
Yeah.
Great. Now we have generated that interest and we can have that full conversation. But again, I always want to protect you if you get sick, if you get hurt, and if you don't make it. And because they're coming in as critical illness leads, that's one approach. Now, let's say it comes in as a funeral and final expense lead. So I understand you're interested in making sure we take care of your funeral, the final expenses. I also want to take a look at your retirement with the same product. So that takes care of everything in case you don't make it. But let me ask you this. Do you have anything in place so you can pay this premium in case you can't work?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right? And then we're on the critical illness disability conversation.
Yeah. Awesome. Which is why, we target self-employed people here at SkyScaling, because it makes sense, right? For most employees, they usually have something at work that covers maybe a portion of their income. If they're self-employed, there's nada, right? There's absolutely nothing. Chris, let's transition to SkyScaling and obviously what we've been working together for obviously a few months now. It's been 3 months, just about, give or take. So I want to start with the slow start, okay? Because I think kind of your story and kind of how our process went with you, I think is a really good example to give out, because for most people, I want to say the first 1 or 2 weeks is usually a bit slower and then it kind of gains traction. Yours was a bit different because we were targeting something completely different. And even the conversations we were having then, you weren't worried. You did seem like, you had a bit of trust in what we were doing, which I really appreciate. But I just want to get a better understanding of what was going through your mind really the first 1 to 2 weeks when we were focused on another campaign, which was mortgage insurance, which we don't offer anymore since we're fully doing living benefits now. But before that switch, kind of, what were you thinking? Did you have any faith in what we were doing? And yeah, I'll leave it there.
What's really interesting is that my single case study is almost like a microcosm of what you folks went through as a business,
Yeah, exactly.
right? You had a
Very
couple of
true.
different ideas of markets you thought you might be profitable.
Yes.
And a lot of times it's A/B testing, right? What works, what doesn't. And as soon as I understood the potential of what your system could do, I knew that it was going to provide what I needed. And I was, after being a sales trainer for 15 years and you're teaching people how to sell, I can sell. I got that,
Yeah.
no problem. But do I know how to generate the leads? And I got to hit up all my friends. I got to hit up all my families. I got to go door to door to businesses and start knocking. I don't know how to do any of that. If I could close that gap, I knew the sales would come. And taking a look at what your system offered versus what other systems offered, it was the best value. Now, in
Awesome.
those first few weeks, I knew it was going to be a little slow, but then it was really slow. And I was
Okay.
like, okay, I'm going to give him a few weeks to see, what we can do. And what's interesting is that there were only a few leads that came in. I
Yeah.
sold, one of those or two of those or whatever it was. And I knew it wasn't going to be sustainable at this rate.
Yeah.
But I knew there must be something more at play.
Yeah.
And for your part, I brought my concerns to you guys and say, you know what? I'm going to look into it. I'm going to take a careful look at what's going on. And you understood and found the problem. And to me, that shows the expertise of the management and the entrepreneurial structure that you guys have going. You've got people that know what they're doing, know how to assess, tackle, and more importantly, solve problems
Yeah.
so that marketing becomes effective. What was the obstacle we identified? That particular market might be saturated in Ontario
Yeah.
in a way where it's not saturated in other places. So what can we do? And so we said, well, let's try this other, this other lead campaign. And once they started coming in more steadily, and I was able to kind of reach out to them and get people on the phone,
Yeah.
then that's fine. I've got it from there. But we really just needed to figure out how to make this machine run in the waters it was in.
Awesome. Appreciate that. I do want to talk about your process. I do have one or two other questions, but I really want to dig a bit deeper into your process. When a lead comes in, what's your, how does it work? Do you call them right away? Do you wait? Do you send a text when you call? When a meeting gets booked, what do you do? I want to go into that because I think that is really where, because getting leads is one thing. Closing is, a completely different ballgame. I know you can
Mhm.
close. That's why we're having this conversation. I know how great you are. And I know you've sharpened this skill for many years now, which is why I think this is going to be super great for people. And I'm sure if someone sees this video once again in contact with you, I'm sure we'll figure something out. But um, before we go into that, I just want to ask because we have a 2 month launch phase, right? Which is basically a commitment period where it's really kind of testing the waters and getting to a point where for most people it's successful, right? I want your opinion because I get people asking all the time, like, can we just do it right off the bat? And after 2 weeks, if it doesn't work, I can just, get out of here. Do you think a launch phase of 2 months is necessary in your opinion?
I think it's extremely important.
Yeah.
Um, my belief is that this can be very, very effective within 1 month, almost, as a general rule.
Yeah.
Now, the 2 months is there for specifically a case like mine, where there was some other obstacle, there was some other element that we all had to wade through, understand, unpack, and solve.
Yeah.
If we just put a 2 or 3 week window on that, I wouldn't be doing business with you guys right now.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
because we set enough time where, yeah, you should be up and running in a month, but we'll give it that extra month in case we run into any issues, that allows you a chance to adjust and pivot.
Yeah.
But let's say the problem was on my end. You were sending me, 30, 40 leads a month. Chris, you're only closing 1 or 2 deals. Let's look at that and work with our coach. Maybe it's the closing strategy. Maybe it's the way you're working the leads. Maybe it's the way you're pitching. Maybe it's the relationships you're developing and the way that you go for the sale. So it gives us enough time to evaluate both sides of the fence to understand and identify any obstacles that we may initially encounter, but also give it time for those first few sales to drop and turn around and get approved and start paying commission.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate that. That's very well said. And I think you're right. It's exactly for the cases like yours because there's so many clients we have now that have been with us for years now that without that 2 month launch phase would probably not be with us. So that's exactly why that's in place. Now, Chris, I want to dig into your process. That's where the magic happens. I feel like, and I do have some questions and some concerns that I see from other agents that I do want to bring up with you because I think you'll probably have maybe not the full answer, but a part of it. The process is we run an ad, client or prospect sees an ad about living benefits, clicks on the ad, fills out a form. Once they fill out the form, you get notified, right? Then your prospect gets redirected to your calendar page, which has your information. They can go ahead and book a meeting directly on that calendar page, and then from there, obviously, that's where you would have your discovery call. So there's also the AI assistant. So I want to know from what you've seen so far, how many people are. So let's just start with when the lead comes in. Do you try to get the phone, call them right away, or do you give them a few minutes to try to book a meeting themselves and let the AI reach out before you send, or you actually take your first call?
What seems interesting to me is that the leads tend to come in after 5 or on the
Yeah,
weekends.
yeah,
And that's because people have lives, they have jobs, and they don't really,
exactly.
so they go home, and as they're scrolling and clicking and doing their Facebook and their Instagram, this ad will pop up at 10 p.m., 4 a.m., whatever, and the leads
Yeah,
will come in. So the next morning, my very first step in my process is I have a call tracker that I use, and I drop in all my most recent leads that have come in. And I'm always calling the most recent lead I've got first, and then I'm working backwards. I'm calling my top maybe 10 or 20 every single day. And then I'll call batches of the rest each day to fill up my 30 or 40 calls for the day. This does a couple of things. It hits your highest priority leads
yeah,
almost every day until you connect with them or they tell you to go away.
yeah,
But it also then allows you to hit the rest of your leads you've been working on a while every couple of days so the customer doesn't get that, contact fatigue. But they're like, they'll recognize you're calling again, but not like, oh my, this is the fifth day in a
yeah,
row. You may call them 2 or 3 times a week
right.
after they've been on your books for, a week or two. So it allows me to focus on my high priority leads every day, the top 10 or 20, plus then batches of any other leads I've gotten that month, every other day, every third day or so.
Okay, awesome. Now, out of because so far, how many people have you closed in the last? So, just gotta give it give some context. We did mortgage insurance for 2 weeks. That did not, give us the best volume. We switched that to living benefits, which is now what Skyscaling only does. And since then, how many leads in the last 2 months? Where I think you told me 12, right? Last week.
That's like just counting from April strictly. So if I go back to, I think it was the end of March, I was
Okay.
starting to get some leads. So actually, I'm gonna reset that.
So that's two
Yeah,
and a half months, give or take.
yeah. To the end of May. And I've got all that information here for us. So that is, and then making sure none of these are. There's one that's about 14 different policies.
Awesome. That's
Yeah, yeah.
nice. So, out of those 14 that you've closed, did you see a pattern in terms of people that auto booked that you had to call to book? And yeah, let's just start there. I do have a follow-up question.
Of course. Um, Usually I'm having to call to book them. I
Okay.
do find with the auto books, I can tell immediately if they've booked within 24 hours or 48 hours, they'll probably show. But if they book 3 or 4 days out, then they
Yeah.
probably won't show. They'll
Yeah.
forget, they won't,
Yeah.
whatever. And so if someone has auto booked and it's today or tomorrow, I'll let it ride, roll the dice, and see what happens.
Yeah.
But if it's 2 or 3 days out, I'm going to pick up the phone, give them a call, and say, "Hey, I noticed you put in an automatic booking for next Thursday. Are you still good with next Thursday? Is there anything that you think of that might come up between now and then?" And it just gets them thinking about their schedule, and I can take their temperature as to how likely they are to appear.
Yeah, okay, that's a really good move. That's exactly what I wanted to know. And I want to know also, you mentioned you always call your leads and priority, you call the latest lead always first, and then you go down from there. When you get a lead, for how long and how many attempts will you call that lead? Do you have like, really specific regime where it's like I call twice a day for 10 days, or do you call 3 times a day do you have anything in place, sort of a structure or system that, hey, after XYZ number of days, I'll stop calling this person?
Usually what it is I have a tracker, call tracker of my own that every time I make a call, I write down what happened, when I called, that kind of thing. So I can go back and I can see over the last 2 or 3 months how many attempts I've made on each and every lead. And I usually will go up to about 10 to 15.
Okay.
10 if I'm not getting anywhere, 15 if I have touched base with you, but maybe you stood me up and I'm still working on it,
Are those days or call
Those
attempts?
are call attempts.
Okay, so once a day for 15 days or so?
So how it usually works out is it's once a day for probably a week or two, and then they fall off of that list of the top 15 or 20 leads, right?
Okay.
So there's that natural attrition that pushes them down into the leads you're still working but aren't hot leads.
Yeah.
So you might get 3 or 4 calls in a row, a week or maybe two, but then you might get a call every 3 days for another month.
Okay,
But
nice.
it's
Okay.
all, it's usually about 10 attempts in, I'm looking at, does this look like a prospect that's ever picked up, that's ever talked to me, that maybe they stood me up, they made an appointment, there's interest there, then I'll continue to 20. But if it's been 10 straight voicemails, no response, sent a few emails, nothing, then I
So you
move it.
call once a day, and obviously you're having success with those calls because you're reaching people and booking appointments. What time of day do you call?
Um, I think it's important to change it up.
Yeah.
I think it's important that if you look down, and I note the time every time I call, and you've hit these people 2, 3 times in the afternoon, then on Wednesday or Thursday, come in the morning.
Yeah.
Hit the list in the morning and do your admin in the afternoon. Um, because sometimes you can get a sense of whether they work second shift or if they work
Yeah.
first shift. 80% of your folks are probably going to be on a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
But you want to catch those guys that are on 11 to 7 or 10 to 6.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Awesome. Now you did. So I want to talk about tracking because at Skyscaling we also provide. So you did mention you use your own tracking template. I want to know: do you think you can be successful in the insurance space if you don't track your stuff?
Oh no, not at
No.
all.
Yeah. Okay.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you elaborate on? Have you always tracked your data? Because I think it's the I think it's the most important thing in the process. That's why we give an Excel spreadsheet and it's like mandatory. You have to use
Yeah.
this. If you don't, first off, we don't know what's going on. But I think for people that are not tracking their stuff, it's really hard to get anything out of the leads.
I think that I come from it from a very unique perspective in that companies came to me and said, "Hey, can you build a tracking system for us?
Hmm.
These are the things we want to track, and here's why."
Okay.
So with every decision that is made, I'm always asking them, "What's the goal? Why do we want to track this?" Okay, here's why. Here's how it helps the business. Here's how it helps the reps be more successful. Here's how it allows us to track our bottom line. So I understand the rationale quite deeply. And so, if you're going to track your own stuff, you need to know who your leads are. Duh. Contact information. You guys have that in spades. It's great. But I need to be able to pull up my lead and see how many times I've called them and at what interval and, what happened on the last call. So when I pull up a call, I see the day they came in, I see their name, their phone number, but also the notes of the last
Yeah.
call. It just automatically pulls it up for me. So I have an idea of what's going on with this guy.
Okay.
And then I fill in the date I'm calling, the time I'm calling, and what happened, and then any notes that I need to know on the next call that I call. So then I can look at each day and be like, all right, you made 30 calls today. So like Monday, I was upset at myself. I only made 10 calls. But you know what? I booked 4 of them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So today I had 30 calls. I only booked 2 of them. But I have, and you can probably see it on my little board here, I track my goals.
Yeah.
So I can look at them. How many calls do you need for the week? How many have you made so far? Look at it. Oh,
Yeah.
shoot. I need to, you have to be able to see your goals, be accountable for your goals, and, be emotionally connected to your goals. They're important to you. So you want to take care of them. You want to nurture them. You want to make sure they're going in the direction. If they're not, it's your job to push them in the right direction.
Yeah.
So if I come in 3 days in and I've only made 30 calls, I need to make 70 calls in the next 2 days. What's my plan? What's my goal?
Awesome. That's great. I love what you're saying, Chris. Now, in your sales process, there's technically 3 calls. If you count the call that you're actually making to book the meeting, right?
Mhm.
That's what I call sort of the, appointment booking call. Do you have a script for that call when you call a lead and you try to book the meeting, the discovery call? Do you use a script, or I probably assume you don't need a script by now, but is there something you say to kind of really, what's your opener when you call? You say, hey, it's Chris B from XYZ. How many people
Yeah.
are like, hey, I don't remember this? Like, kind of what's your opener? How do you get someone to even be open to hearing you out?
Here's the thing about scripts. Um, some people say, and it kind of goes into, as you know, I'm a musical performer as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So I'll walk into a rehearsal and I'll go in and guy next to me will lean over me like, "Hey, you're really good. You must never practice." And I lean to him and I say, "No, bro, I'm really good because I practice every single day."
Yeah.
And the same is true with scripting. Some
Okay.
people say, "Hey, you must be so good you don't need a script." I'm like, "No, no, no. I'm this good because I use a script. And I
Okay.
use a script
Nice.
religiously and faithfully." So I took the script that you gave me, add a
Nice.
little bit of killer bee magic, as I call it, and I think it's very important to consistently deliver the same message to every customer because what I want to try to figure out is in the first 3 minutes, what am I going to say that's going to encourage you to actually listen to me?
Yeah.
So keep my scripts in a binder right here. They're all labeled. What script do you want to hear today? And that's kind of a joke, but it's kind of not. So I have one for the living benefits discovery call. I have another one for the living benefits appointment setting. I have another one for term life insurance setting appointments, term life insurance booking. That's going to be a great way to start. Now, can you do a wholesale on a script? No.
Of course
The
not.
script is to get your foot in the door and, like you said, get that customer's attention right away. So, for instance, living benefits. Hello, this is Christopher B. calling from Denise Talk Days Are Done Insurance. Now, again, I don't know if you've ever been to those Marvel movies, but they rehearse those scenes and rehearse those scenes. Does it sound like they're reading script? No.
Yeah. Of course
Are
not.
they reading script? Almost word for word all the time.
Yeah.
Unless you're Iron Man, you're making half of it up anyway.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm reaching out because it looks like you sent us an inquiry on Facebook there because you're a small business owner and you're just looking to protect your income. If you ever had like a critical illness or a disability that, it prevents you from working. So just wanted to offer you a free quick quote so we can see how living benefits from Desjardins would be there for you
That's
to
great.
protect your income, to protect your family, to
I
protect your
love
business.
I love that opener because I think a
You
lot
know,
of people will call and will say, "Hey, I'm calling. Did you want to book a meeting with me?" It's like the prospect doesn't really,
no.
care
Why?
about you as a person. Yeah, exactly. So in your sentence, you're giving out the reason
Yeah.
you're calling. You're calling out them as a person being self-employed, and you're calling out the problem, which is if you
And
can't
yeah,
work.
you want to tell them what's in it for them. I'm going to give you a free quote. There's no cost. There's no obligation. It's just good information, right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So it's just a way to get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
And then, later you can, expound on why you're calling and why it matters, why waiting isn't ideal, all the things that you've built into that scripting. I think is important. But if you can't hit the ball, you won't score, right?
Yeah. 100%.
It's like playing baseball and not being able to hit the ball.
Yeah, which is, yeah, will get you far. Now, for the actual policy being sold, do you use a two-call process? Do you use a discovery call on the phone and then move to a virtual meeting on another call, maybe the next day? How does your sales process look like?
Usually what happens is I kind of take the customer's temperature as to how much time they have right now. And
Okay.
if I think I can get 5 or 10 minutes out of them right now, hey, I'm just calling for this reason. Here's why I'm calling. I didn't know. Did you have a couple minutes? I just want to gather some information so that we can talk about what this might look like for you.
Right.
If it feels like I can get 10 or 15 minutes for them, I'll get enough information to be able to come back at them with a quotation.
Okay.
Great. On our next call, I'm sending you all the information you need. You're just going to pick a plan, whatever works best for you. And we're going to talk about, I'll have a brochure in there. We'll unpack that all together. So then when I'm calling back, I'm saying, okay, now open your email. Let's look at that together. Now open the brochure. Let's walk through that together. What I don't want is when I call back and say, hey, do you want to talk to me? Did you look at your email? No. Did you read it through? No. Are you ready to talk? No. I'm calling because it's going to be my job to walk you through what I sent you. Let's get this taken care of today. So the expectation is not that you don't have to talk to me if you haven't looked at it yet.
Yeah.
It is the whole point of the appointment is for us to go through that stuff together.
Awesome. That's great. So, do you do a virtual meeting or is it all over the phone? Mostly over the phone.
For the first, for the first call, if it's an appointment setting call and I could set the appointment, I'm setting the appointment for a virtual meeting when I can.
Okay.
If I can do a little bit of fact finding to give them an idea of what their ballpark pricing would be, then that first call is just right over the phone.
Okay.
And I know that my business owner, Denise, would prefer that we at least have that visual on the phone. Are you talking to the right person? Are they, picking up what you're putting down? Are they confident in the decisions that they're making? Do they understand all the information? Because we're binding them in a legal contract and all that stuff. So
Okay.
you really shouldn't do that without at least some kind of face-to-face if you can. Now, sometimes you get that truck driver and he's always driving. So really, I would just wait until we're about to close the deal and say, listen, if you bought a house or if you bought a car, you'd take some time to go meet the sales guy, right? What's more important than your car and your house? Your life. So it's important enough that let's take that time because I'm sure you've all dealt with customers that are I'm way too busy and I'm way too important to make an appointment,
Yeah. 100%.
right?
100%. So on a virtual meeting, the only thing, do you show them a slide deck? Do you just go through the brochure with them? What do you show in a virtual meeting to your prospect if you do show them anything?
In a virtual meeting, what I'm doing is I am asking the fact-finding questions I need to build them a solution, and then I will screen share. Here's what your solution looks like. Here's what it costs. Here are the things that it's going to provide you. And let me explain what all these funny words mean.
Yeah.
This is just our starting point. Now, if this is a little high for your budget, here are the places you can save. You can save by changing your deductible. You can save by changing your waiting period. You can save by changing the amount you get each month. So, what's most important to you? A lower monthly payment or a lower deductible at time of incident? And then they tell me what's important to them, and we look at it together and make those adjustments.
Awesome. Okay, that's great. Now I want to talk about what I think is honestly the most important part of a sell, which is building your urgency, right? Now with living benefits, it kind of, sells itself because obviously the prospect understands, but I want to know, how do you build urgency on a call? Once you've provided the quote, you show them everything, how do you get someone to stop saying, I'll think about it, I'll get back to you in a week, and actually make the sell happen? Because I had this conversation a while back with a client that told me, the way he would build urgency is he would say the rates are going to go up. The rates, I don't personally, I don't think it's the right way to build urgency. You're kind of just pushing them away,
Hmm.
making them defensive. I want to know, how does Chris B build urgency? How do you get to the point where once you end the call, it almost feels like a relief to get the product instead of, a mountain they have to climb, and them giving you an objection saying, hey, I'll think about it and I'll get back to you, which we all know they never do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things is to try to paint this picture that Um, with insurance, one of the most difficult things is to get approved while you still can. You'll never be as young and healthy as you are right now.
Yeah.
We've all got those people in our lives that died unexpectedly without warning. You could probably think of one right now.
Yeah.
Who's that in your life? Oh, my Aunt Sally. Didn't even see it coming. Well, I want to make sure, let's not, and some people say, oh, I'm not planning on dying anytime soon. This can wait. Let's not plan to die today. Let's make a plan today for when that day does come. Because as you know, no one can really guess when that day is going to be. And you want to be ready for it whenever it comes, even if that's next week, next month, or next year. So since you don't have a plan in place yet, let's make one today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. Um, I want to talk about your sales philosophy because on our phone call the other day, um, you said sales. I have it quoted here. You said sales because obviously you do music. You said sales is like singing. I want you to explain that.
Yes, sales is like singing because without a mastery of the fundamentals, the fancy stuff won't matter. And what I mean by that is you can have all the product knowledge in the world, right? And you might even be a good closer. But if you can't build rapport, establish a connection, and get that customer's trust and engagement at the top of the call, none of that's going to matter,
Yeah.
right? So I can sing long notes and high notes and whatever, but if I'm not on pitch and I'm not on rhythm, no one's going to buy tickets to go to my show.
Yeah.
Nothing's worse than going to like a Meatloaf concert or a Billy Joel, tribute concert, and the guy just can't do it. He just can't do it. Not the same, right? And I've seen in sales people that know their product information inside and out. They have tracking systems and they track their skulls and their stats and they're doing all the behaviors, but they can't read people
Yeah.
and they can't mirror people
Yeah.
and they can't connect features and benefits with needs that are important to the customer. Those are the fundamentals.
Yeah.
So you have to have those fundamentals in place. Can I connect with a customer? Can I connect every single feature that I have to a need that they have? Because without that connection, then you can't get the sale. So it's all about the fundamentals. And if I'm not dialing the phone, then
Yeah.
I'm not going to sell anybody. So,
Yeah. I keep
it all
telling
comes back to
people.
the fundamentals.
I keep telling people the calls are important. I think a lot of people overlook the phone calls. It's one of those insurance is one of those spaces where an industry is where calling is I think is always going to be a necessity. It's not a sexy product. People don't want to go out and talk about it. They'll inquire online, but if you
Mhm.
don't do your own, part of the process and own effort, it's hard to get in contact with these people. Now, you did mention obviously, Chris, you've coached people in the past, um, and you've done this for a long time. What are fundamentals that never change? And what have you seen? What's a common trait amongst people that are successful in the insurance space?
Some of the fundamentals that I would say are your activity. Obviously, whenever anyone comes to me and says, I'm struggling with my sales, the first question is, how many calls did you make last week?
Okay.
How many calls are you making each day?
I just want to add something, Chris, because I see a
Yeah.
lot of people online making ads now, like kind of laughing about. I'll see like these skits. Oh, did you make your calls? And it's like they'll sell a solution to avoid making calls. So we're gonna end this conversation today. You do think making your calls is still top tier, the most important part of the process.
Here's the catch to that head fake. You may not be making the calls if you buy our product, but that's because we're making the calls for you.
Yeah.
Someone somewhere is making the calls. You
Yeah.
can't have successful sales without the call happening.
Yeah.
And so I would rather be in charge of what I say to my customer when I get them on the phone.
Yeah.
So it's most important for me to reach out to the leads as they come in. And Jessica's great and she can kind of start to engage them. But at the end of the day, the reason those calls are most important is because that's your very first touch point as a human being with your lead. That's where you either gain or lose control of the lead,
Yeah.
right?
That,
And it is a numbers game. And if you only call 10 people a day, you're not going to get a hold of 10 people a day. You need to call 50, 60 people a day and get a hold of five or six and book two or three. And, if you're not booking 5 to 10 appointments a week, you won't be successful in the game, right?
100%. Awesome. Let's talk about what has, resulted from the last 2 months, Chris. So I know you did mention, I just want to go over your results working with us and our marketing now for 2 months. So I'll let you take the floor. And I also want you to, is there anything you would have made differently when we started the process? Let's just go over your results really quickly. So where are you now with closes and written premium in the last 2 months?
let's take a look at the last 2 months specifically. So now I had a little monkey wrench in my works because I had to do a week of testing for the insurance exam, right?
Yeah.
So that the second week in June there was kind of a wash. So if I go back to just it's basically April and May.
Yeah.
That was the number that I gave you because I had the insurance training at the top of June mucking up my business.
Awesome.
Um, yeah,
So we're at 14 policies, and I think you said
about
12,000.
12,000. Yeah.
And how much is that of that is still in underwriting?
Six.
Awesome.
And that's it. Again, that's the critical illness disability has a longer underwriting period. And some things have been rated, and I have to call those customers and present their rated product, which is another skill altogether.
Perfect. That's awesome. Anything you would tell an advisor just starting out with sky scaling and feeling impatient?
100%, yes. Um, Sky scaling is called sky scaling for a reason. It's not sky quick solution right away. You know, it's one of those things where you do have to work up to it. So,
Yeah.
as with any business or any business support system, you have to understand that you're going to get some leads to work with. Then you have to work those leads. Then those leads have to get closed and get sent to underwriting. And, it may take another 3 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks for underwriting if you're doing critical illness disability. And that's, I think, the thing that if you're coming from a space where you've only done term insurance and whole life insurance, the underwriting may be 3 to 5 days.
Right.
That's it. That's all you got to worry about, right? It'll fall on your books this week, next week, or whatever. When you're transitioning into critical illness disability, the market opportunity is much bigger. The commission on each sale is much bigger. The premiums are much bigger. And the benefits to the customer are much more beneficial.
Yeah.
But for that reason, insurance companies need to be more careful about the risks that they're assuming. And I think the other thing is how does your organization handle critical illness disability underwriting? Do they have a large enough team? What's their turnaround time? Can you talk with your management about what is the average turnaround time for a critical illness disability lead to get underwritten? So you can both go into it with an understanding of, well, it's probably going to be like 3, 4 weeks waiting. Or, you know what? Our guys are really, really great. They turn it around in usually 2 weeks. Great. Now I know what I'm dealing with. And I can factor that into my patient's formula, right?
Yeah.
So even though there are policies that I sold in March and April that are just paying out this month or next month, I know that all the policies I sold in April and May are going to fill my June and July while I'm putting more money on the books in June and July to pay out in August and September.
Yeah, 100%. And out of those people you've sold living benefits to, are there still some of those prospects that you're still in contact to potentially open up more doors in the future for more products?
100%. Like one of my first couple sales, I have them earmarked because, of course, my auto and home license is going to drop here real soon.
Okay.
So I'm going to circle back and say, great, we've taken care of your critical illness, your disability, your life insurance. Who handles your home and auto? Maybe it makes more sense to have everything under one roof. Let's see if we can save you some money. Those are opportunities now that I'm going to be able to circle back on. Once I actually have my license in hand, every single person that calls me, it's going to be a whole home insurance opportunity.
Right. So
You
the
called me for
lifetime,
this? Yeah. Hmm?
yeah. So the lifetime value of a consumer is much more than just a policy being sold upfront, right?
100%. And the potential of policies sold, even though they walk into the door wanting one thing, you've got a whole store full of things, right? It's like I used to tell my guys at the cell phone stores when I was training sales folks over at Bell, customer may come in to get a new phone case. Why aren't you selling them a new phone, home phone, TV, internet, and
Yeah.
all the, benefits that go with that, right?
Yeah.
It's just like when you walk into like a clothing store and you want to buy a shirt, and they're going to sell you the whole outfit,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
right?
that's
Same
true.
thing.
Yeah, very true. Being upsold. Yeah. Chris, before we end off, I know I've had you on this for 45 minutes. So is there anything you'd want other advisors watching this to walk away with?
Yes. I would say that if you're choosing sky scaling, the one thing that they can help you with is giving you the opportunities.
Yes.
Your sole focus then needs to be on building your sales acumen,
Yeah.
your ability to present and connect with customers and overcome objections. And when you put those three things together with sky scaling leads, you'll experience
Yeah.
success.
I I 100% agree. I think we're doing 50% of the work. Obviously, the other 50% has to be done by the advisor, which is doing your calls, getting in contact with people, and yeah, doing. Obviously, we can't close. I wish I could close for people, but obviously that's not how it works, right? So we can help with the process and kind of kickstart things, but obviously, just like you're doing your calls every day. You have to do your own portion of the work. Chris, this was great. Thank you for allowing me 45 minutes of your time and sharing all of this. I'm sure this is going to be useful. Is there an email address people, Chris, can reach you at? Is there? Do you have social media? Again, I don't think thousands of people will watch this, but for someone at home that's seeing, hey, Chris B has experience in the business. Maybe I want to learn from him. Maybe I want to work with him. Maybe I want to get sold to by him.
Right.
Yeah. Is there any place people can reach you at?
Yes. So on most of my social medias, you'll find me under HSRBEE as a username. And then it's that same email, HSRBEE@gmail.com. And a lot of times it's just, oh, I'm having trouble with this one objection, or I just can't get over this situation, or this is the one situation that I can't handle, or whatever it is. Sometimes it's just that extra voice from outside, or that extra set of eyes. Let me take it. Are you using a script? I can take a look at your script. What are the top two objections that you're struggling with the most? Whatever we can do to help people. That's where my heart is. I do love doing that. I've been training folks for ages and ages, and I decided, is what you're training actually working? Does it actually work? And the answer is yes. I know what I'm doing. Whew. I didn't get out here, and none of the stuff I've been saying for 10 years works at all. It all works when you put it all together.
Awesome. I love this. Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Awesome. It's been an absolute pleasure. For anyone watching this at home, you can reach out to Chris B if you want more information about skyscaling, skyscaler.com/contact. That's it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, and have a great day. Bye.